projected the Hot Wheels movies. And that scene came on this massive screen. And we all just were like, ah! Because none of us had seen it when we were looking at, on a regular television sizes.
Hello and welcome to the Squared Corner podcast. My name is jcsquared and I am delighted to have you on. This is a podcast about the Hot Wheels community and beyond. Today's guest I have with me is quite literally one of the main people responsible for so much in the Hot Wheels franchise. He has directed episodes 2 and 3 of Hot Wheels World Race, was the series director for all of AcceleRacers, the voice of Monkey, and also the MOCAP director for the series and the MOCAP performer for Monkey, Nolo, and Shirako. I hope I got all that right. Please welcome the one and only Andrew Duncan. How are you doing? Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be on and talk some AcceleRacers and Hot Wheels.
No, it is seriously a pleasure to have you on. You hit me up and I was like, yes, let's do this as fast as possible in a time that we can do this. And I just want to, start out with this, which is, what do you think of Hot Wheels AcceleRacers? This is the 20th anniversary. It's 20 years old now, and now World Race being 22. What do you think about that now?
It's hard to believe. It's funny because when we were making all of these things, you always wonder, like, is anybody watching them? Is anybody connecting with these things and these stories? And it was like, at a time before the internet was really taking off. So you didn't really have as many communities and everything like that. So you didn't really know if anybody was really connecting with it. And to think now that 20 years later, there are still people that are interested in it is amazing.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool, yeah. Did you ever think you would get this popular? Because now it's really getting kind of a resurgence. It kind of happened during 2020 a little bit with everyone, online and everything. And then people go into their old storages and go, what are these movies again? Let me just play it. Let me see what it was like,
Finding old DVDs.
That's like, right, yeah. Yeah. The old DVDs.
Well, that was the thing for World Race, I think, because of its format too, because of the way it was released. It was released with those little, like a little DVD episode that was released with the car. You know what I mean? So it was one of those things that I don't think we ever really thought of it as, never really saw it as being broadcast. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it was it never really had that sort of life that we knew of. So to see that it has, and then, later on they combined them all together into one movie, that was a really nice thing to have that happen. So
yeah, and that's what I grew up on. I didn't even know there were episodes prior to that, because I had only gotten the movie set with like the, I don't know, whatever that nice cool cover is, and
and like 3D bit of the holographic.
That's cover. Right, the holographic. Yeah, I love that thing. And it had all the special features, everything on it, which was awesome. Like, that was the go-to DVD all the time for my parents, definitely.
How old were you when World Race? When you saw that?
When World Race came out, I was 3 or 4, so I probably didn't really watch it until I was 5. And that's because, Blockbuster was very popular back then. So, I mean, you'd go to Blockbuster and find, oh, look, the Hot Wheels movie. Let's go rent this one out and see how that one turns out. And I bet that's somewhat what happened to me. Or, and I've said this before, I think either I might have seen it at my cousin's house. He's a little bit older than me, and he could have had it on. Or it could have been on Cartoon Network. There's so many different things. I just remember really liking it, and I was like, "This is what I'm about." And I remember
it was super colorful too. That was the one thing about World Race. It was it had such a nice kind of colorful kind of. Well, I had the toon shaded too, didn't it? Yeah.
Oh yes, the cell shaded. We'll definitely talk about that a little bit, because I love that. I love that. So yeah, that's kind of where I got into it. AcceleRacers, I probably was maybe a year older, so like probably 2006 is when I found it. So this is the problem with me, is I never really got the chance to collect the real Diecasts, because I didn't even know they released them as in stores and stuff. I was always trying to find them somewhere else because I could never find them. So that was something that was my personal experience. So I'm actually probably on the younger side as far as, a super fan of the series. Most guys are probably a little bit older because they remember it more vividly. And I mean, that was like really where they were locked in. maybe we're like even 6 years old, you'll probably remember that way more than at 4, that's harder to, like, I don't even remember many things when I was 4.
You're still kind of like, your brain's still figuring out how to form memories and stuff.
That's right, yeah. That's right. So I guess let's start at the beginning of your career and then hop into World Race, because I think you're right to suggest, you suggested this to me, that we might have to split some of these episodes up so as to not create such a long podcast for listeners, and then also give them a new thing to look forward to maybe every week. So first off, how did you end up at Mainframe becoming a director / voice actor? What was the journey you took in this endeavor?
Well, it started in, I came out to Vancouver in the late 80s to go to film school. And I, after film school, I came out and I was trying to get into live action filmmaking. And I was working a lot in like low budget features and TV shows. There was a TV show called Madison. I don't know. It was a Canadian 90210. It was called Madison. I worked on that as a lamp op. So that's the kind of work I was trying to get. I was trying to get into the union. And then one day I was watching TV with my friends and we saw Reboot on. And the end credits were going on and it said made in Vancouver. And I was just like, that's made in Vancouver? Like, that's made where I'm literally in the city that's being made. And just happenstance again, a friend of mine ended up getting a job there as an editor. And then I knew a few other people that were working there. So then I ended up getting a job there as an editor. Came in as the supervising editor because I had a bunch of Avid experience. And started setting up these systems and everything. Worked on Reboot, directed a couple episodes of Reboot season 3. Worked on Beast Wars. Worked on shows like War Planet, Shadow Raiders, Weirdos. And then around 2000, I think in the year, beginning of 2001, I took a break from Mainframe. I was going to take some time off because I'd worked for 4 years straight, which seemed like a lot at the time. But so I took a break and then I had been off work for a while. And then I got a call from Mainframe that they had this project, World Race, and Will Lau had already signed up for it. And I think originally Will was going to direct all of them. And then it turned out like the schedule got compressed, so they needed another director to come in. So that's why I came in and did parts 2 and 3 of World Race. And then that's basically, and then from working on World Race, I just ended up staying in the company again. Companies worked a lot differently back then. Once you were kind of in the company, they just kept finding you work to do. I guess if you were decent at it.
Yeah.
So, so then I did the MTV Movie Awards. We did a little thing for them. And then we did a Tony Hawk movie, I think, a MOCAP movie for Tony Hawk. And then AcceleRacers came up. And then that's how I got onto AcceleRacers as well.
Oh, that's neat. That's really cool, actually. And hearing, a lot of people probably are also familiar with Reboot and with Beast Wars. I know we talked to David K on the podcast, who does Megatron? And what's really funny about that is that model makes it into Desert Heat, which is quite funny, actually. That Vulcan points that out, and then it goes wild on Twitter. Everyone goes, wait, what? which was hilarious, actually, to see Transformers Twitter find Hot Wheels Twitter all of a sudden, and then it just went weird. It was like, whoa, what's going on here? All because of a model. This is kind of crazy. So yeah, that's really cool. So you worked on, so that's how you end up working on Hot Wheels World Race then, is that you just get a call. It's like, hey, look, William Lau can't do this part. We got more going on, because I guess, what is kind of like that time frame of how fast y'all have to get animation out in a year? Because I know it releases in 2003, but like you said, 2001?
I think it was probably 2002, I think, was when I got kind of the call, maybe in the spring of 2002.
Okay.
So they had already started. Will was already working on it. They already had the teams, and they just decided to add an extra line. So an extra animation line. So we ended up getting a bunch more animators. I guess the time must have got compressed or something. Schedules are always like that on TV.
Yeah.
Where all of a sudden it's like, they want to put these things into the cars. The packaging now has to be done earlier. You know what I mean? So there was probably something like that. Something that wasn't initially thought of. And then so So yeah, so Will and I came in. Will and I had worked together. Will also had worked on Reboot and Beast Wars and things like that. So we had known each other. So we were good partners in that regard. I let him. He was basically the lead because he was the first director on it. So he was kind of the lead of World Race, and I just followed his sort of leads, followed his style, and tried to kind of like make it all feel like one piece.
Yeah.
But in terms of making it, it was like, I think technically at the time it was about 8 weeks per 20-minute episode, 8 to 10 weeks of and that's from starting the episode, animating it, and rendering it straight to the end there. Yeah,
that's actually that's really impressive for back then, though. That's incredible.
Mainframe had it down, man. They had it. They had their television CG pipeline was pretty well designed, and basically you worked with, as a director, you worked with a crew of maybe like 8 to 10. Sometimes I think Hot Wheels World Race might have had 12 animators per line, but you had like a room that had a bunch of animators in it. You sat in an Avid with an editor and a supervising animator, and then they would send you the tests, and you would just get them live. So they would put their monitors into video mode, and then they'd yell out, "Got a test!" You know, that kind of thing. And then the editor would like punch up their computer. Shoo, we'd get there, and then we'd hit record, say play. They'd hit play. We'd get the test, cut it in right away. They'd walk over. We'd tell them what to do. It was like that feedback is something you just don't see anymore because we don't, we communicate digitally so often.
Yeah, wow, that was like clockwork, what you just explained. That's crazy. It was just like, yep, do this, do that, do that. Okay, we're back to this start. Just keep going.
You used to have like a whiteboard outside your Avid with all the animators' names on it. So when the animator would dump a test in, and normally an animator wouldn't dump one, they'd dump 2 or 3 tests, right?
Yeah.
And then they'd come over and they'd write their name on the board. So then you would just go through the board. Next animator who was up, then you would go through their tests and then talk to them about it and stuff. So
wow,
it was like live animation.
Yeah, no, that's really cool though. Because I know a friend of mine who's trying to animate a whole fan film. I don't know if you've seen it or not. I've mentioned them already, Vulcan and the Fog Realm, and so they're working on that currently, and it's kind of fun. I'm not a personal animator. I just go and talk to them every now and then because I'm just a good friend. And then just hearing them talk about all the like shots and like getting the Excel sheet and everything, I'm like, that's a lot going on.
Yeah, it's a lot. You really, my respect for production people went up more and more as I directed. I think when you originally start directing, and also back when we were doing Reboot and Beast Wars and stuff like that, there was less production people around because the editor was the production coordinator in many ways. The editor was the one responsible. It was their show. Do you know what I mean? So they were responsible for making sure all the shots were getting in, all the renders were getting in. Specifically, the rendering was their main thing because they had to go to the online suite with their EDL, and it had to be clean, and it had to be, you know what I mean, lock the time, and everything had to be right. So it was like the crew that made the show, there was a lot less people around it. Whereas now there's a lot more in production, modern production, there's a lot more production people around because everyone's so separated. You need that communication network.
Yeah. No, that was cool. That's cool and interesting. And did y'all, whenever y'all were animating, did you have the voice lines beforehand? And so like everyone did all the voice work already, and now you're just slapping it in and doing all the mouth movements and everything, right?
For the most part. Sometimes you'd get pickups, new lines, that kind of stuff. You'd rewrite things, you know what I mean? Like, or lines that we had were like, the delivery wasn't as good as we, you know what I mean? It's like, they're yelling it out and now we need them to be whispering. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's things like that. Sometimes you get picked up. But for the most part, that was our process, is you always had all the dialogue recorded first.
Yeah.
And that was probably the most fun. You know what I mean? When you would go to the voice record, because we also did it quite differently. Nowadays, after COVID specifically, everybody's recorded individually pretty much all the time. And we used to do assembly records back, especially on AcceleRacers, where you would have one record day where you have all the cast is there and they're all in the one room, and you just go through the script. And by the end of that day, you know if you have the episode recorded or not.
Okay.
Whereas
Okay.
nowadays you're getting like a record session with, it would be a record session with Kurt Wilde, and then there'd be one with Vert, and then there would be one with Karma, and then there would be one with Pork Chop. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you're putting them all together, and now you're realizing, well, this line doesn't work with that line. This line doesn't necessarily work. Whereas back in the day on AcceleRacers and World Race, they'd all be in the room together. So we could say, hey, maybe Kurt, you do this thing when Kadeem says this. Do you know what I mean? And Kadeem, you can give him a bit of a, you know what I mean? Or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could get all these little moments that felt live in the scene while you were recording.
Okay, so that explains a lot, because like, I've asked Jeff, and I think before, because he wrote a lot of things, and I was always like, okay, this seems really naturally well done. I know they had I believe Fabian, who did the like X-Men. He's done a lot of X-Men stuff, so he kind of not produced, but he gave some of his stuff over, and so like a lot of that feels very natural whenever you're hearing the characters banter with one another, and it's just like smooth move, and then it's like boom, and it's like, what the heck, how does, like, this is so solid. And,
Pork Chop and I were standing next to each other, right? When we were
that's
stuff
sweet.
AcceleRacers, right? Like we were standing right next to each other, and David K is like tall like Pork Chop, and I'm short like Monkey. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's great. That's
so
great.
When we would record, we'd be like, him, oh, Monkey. You know what I mean? He'd do that kind of stuff. Like, hey, Pork Chop, what's going on? That kind of thing.
That's awesome. No, so does that mean, so how did you do? Did you have storyboarders, and then you did your voice lines, and then you did the final kind of animation?
They would start storyboarding, and they would just have the lines in their head, but a lot of times we would try to get them the dialogue lines as well, so they would be boarding that. We were still boarding a lot of that stuff on paper at that time too, where it was like a lot of the board artists were still kind of working on paper and just getting into the digital drawing programs. The pencils were really laggy then.
Yeah.
So most of the artists hated drawing on the screens, whereas like they're great now.
Yeah.
But so a lot was paper stuff, and there was a lot of kind of like photocopying things and like.
Oh, that's fun.
The process of getting the storyboard animatic in. But that was what we did. Yeah, we would storyboard the whole 60 minutes out, and then just kind of figure out what to do from there.
Okay. Very interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so with you doing Hot Wheels World Race, and Greatest Challenge and Desert Heat, both actually have like a used track set. They use track sets in their design. So with the Greatest Challenge, you have the giant spinning wheel, and obviously that became a track set. And then you have the TREX, which is the Beast Wars model, which we mentioned previously, but that was an actual set apparently in like 2003. Did Mattel ever like send you those types of things to like input into the movie and things like that? They're like, hey, you need to do this.
Yeah, those are mandates. Yeah. It was like, this needs to be done. And again, because each of these, what is it, 5? I guess there's 5 20 minutes to make up 100. Yeah, I think in World Race. So each one of those was supposed to be, you would buy it with something, and then the release of it would also have the release of the toy set and the release of the 5 vehicles that were going to be part of that team, right? Because I think there's 5 teams of 5 or something like that. Yeah,
5 teams of like, ooh, crud. Someone's gonna, oh no, is it 7 or 6? Oh no, I don't remember. Yeah,
because there's 35. I think in the show there's more
35 cars.
You can edit that out if we get it wrong. Yeah.
Please.
Just put a new number over my mouth. Yeah.
There you go. Yep.
But yeah, that was. So I think with the way that it was getting released in that way. What were we talking about? Sorry, I got lost.
So it was like the track sets. They send you these, and it was mandated.
Yeah,
by
the toy
company.
sets. The toy sets. Yes, yeah. So the toy sets were kind of mandated to be in there, and we were always trying to figure out. The one with Banji and the big wheel of the spinning wheel set one.
Yeah.
That was quite one to kind of work out, because we had like, it was written in the script, like what to kind of do. But it was once we got into the kind of like the realities of the set and how big it would need to be and how far apart they would have to go to make the arc and that kind of thing. And then how we could set it up so that it could work when it was busted. Like, I don't know if you notice it, but it's like, it does like a bullet time thing where they, when they go through the busted version, and they would have smashed it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they would have smashed into it if that chunk hadn't been cut out. And that's the only reason. So it was like working everything backwards from that moment. It was quite a challenging thing. And then also with the spinning wheel, keeping it consistent, and then having it go off time, and then
because it's just floating there. But I mean, that's difficult in general. I mean, this again, we're talking about 2002, and this is like very sophisticated looking for what it is. If I'm honest, with how the cars are very punchy, they are moving very fast. You can tell, like it is. I mean, whenever you see the numbers go up on the miles per hour, it feels like that car is actually zooming that fast, which is so incredible, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I credit a lot of that to Will and them and the team, the early team, because they started, they set up the rigs that they had for the cars.
Okay.
With the kind of like the suspension and everything that they had to take off. That was something. I think the biggest thing, technically, if we were going to talk about a technical thing that we did in 2003, I think it was the tracks. The Hot Wheels tracks, getting those put in. That was the biggest concern.
Oh yeah.
Why it was so expensive, or like why they were having a hard time getting a studio to do it, was because it was going to be so much work to have 25, 30 cars, however it was, many racing on these tracks that are going into these twisting and turning, and how do we keep all the vehicles on the track? And there at Mainframe, the TDs there came up with a way to they designed the track with this rig that kind of like traveled down the track that you could attach the cars to, and it kept the cars, their four wheels on the road all the time. And if it wasn't for that technical thing, the show wouldn't have got made.
Wow.
Because it would have been impossible to... It wouldn't have got made as well as it did. Do you know what I mean? It would have been impossible to have those shots done without the animators killing themselves. We would have needed more people. We would have needed more time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it was because of this... the TDs with this rig that they figured out that could travel down the track, and a way to bend the track that always kept it at the... It never twists, you know what I mean? It never bends like a arc. You know what I mean? It always stays that same flat road no matter how you twisted it around. So that I think is the major technical thing that allowed Hot Wheels World Race to be made, was the track rig.
Yeah. Wow, that is so interesting, because I mean, I wasn't even thinking that. I was thinking, yeah, that looks
neither
like it looks like it just that's what it looks like. And I mean, you see now modern animation can't even replicate what y'all did back then, which is kind of interesting. When I see, you know, the modern Hot Wheels shows and things, it's like I don't really see, you know, that weight and stuff. And when you go back,
they got rid of the tracks, and that was one of the things I think was the problem with the Hot Wheels things. And it's funny because when I first got on the show, the producer at the time, Gio Corsi, was one of the producers. He was a friend of mine, and we got on and we got to go down to Mattel. Do you know what I mean? They invited us down so we could talk to some of the executives, see some of the car designs, just kind of get the feeling for the Mattel thing. And you've been there, obviously, I think. And
yes, it's very cool. What it's like. It's very cool.
So we went down there for that, and I think this was between World Race and AcceleRacers, actually. But we went down there to see a bunch of the stuff. And one of the executives we met with later in the day, and only for maybe 15 minutes, right? So he was a high executive.
Right, you know? right. That's how it happens. I've only ever, like, I think I only met one, you know, super high up executive, and it was only for literally like 5 seconds. And I was like, and he's like, nice, I know who you are. Nice to meet you. And I was like, oh, here's my card, please.
Yeah. It was that sort of thing. You know, we'd met some of the car designers, and, you know what I mean, they told us what was kind of going on and stuff. So it was kind of cool, and what was coming up in the designs. And then, but this one executive said to me, he said, one of the most important things for us is the Hot Wheels track, and is that it's orange. He said, like in the 80s, early 90s, they started changing the color of the track. There was purple track, black track, green track. You know what I mean? Depending on whatever it was.
Right.
And he said they regretted it. Do you know what I mean? As a corporation, they regretted it. They removed the focus from the orange Hot Wheels track, which was the iconic Hot Wheels track, and had made it every color. So one of the things he had said to me specifically was, the orange track is important. You know what I mean? The orange track is important on this. So later, when we were making we could talk about that when we get to AcceleRacers. But there's a teaser for you.
Okay, yeah. There's a little teaser into the ignition later on.
Remember that.
Orange track is important. Yeah, because in World Race you have some purple track in Greatest Challenge, and I kind of like it. I think it's really neat because it looks like it's a different portion, and you still have the orange.
And that's what we used. We used that purple track to be like the shortcut.
Right, the shortcut, yeah.
So then what we did is we tried to change it so orange is the official highway that's going on.
Yeah.
And anything that's off the side, like a playset, because playsets often have the color track that comes with their playset.
That's right, yeah.
So that's how we kind of tried to do it. So if you're on the main road, it's orange, or tries to be orange, like in the swamp realm where we gave the track a little bit of a wood texture, whatever, that kept it orange, you know what I mean? And that was,
Oh, that's neat. That's actually a really cool little Easter egg then, that the way the chosen purple is like a separate track set that goes. That's really cool. That was a really smart idea.
We were going to try to do it. We were going to try to do it in other things too. Like whenever if there was shortcuts or something that someone had to take, we would put those in a different color. Or you know what I mean, or if it was associated to a playset, we would put it in the playset color. Do you know what I mean? So that when a kid got it and they had green tracks and the show had green tracks, and they'd be like,
oh, this is it. This is what I'm talking about. That's what I want.
Because a lot of it is like when you're making these shows, is trying to maintain that childlike attitude in a way, or that mindset in terms of like, what was it that you liked about it? Like when I played with Hot Wheels as a kid, I got my head right. Oh, I've just given you a thumbs up. Sorry.
I've never seen that happen
I'm thinking
before.
Positively.
That's great.
But I used to get right on the track. You know what I mean? My eyes right level with the cars, right on the track, and then push it over the side and watch it go down. And it was like always trying to think about what it is that the kids like about it, what it is that you find cool. What was the coolest thing when cars would go whipping past each other on those crisscrossing.
Oh, the crisscross is so good.
They just missed. So
just
we
missed
did that as much as we could. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'll have to. I think I have it in the questionnaire. So I'm gonna run down some of these actually and get to that crisscross. So one of my first questions though was, how did the comics that, for example, Jeff Gomez, Starlight Runner, how did that create some influence on the pathing that the show would initially take?
I'm not too sure about that side of things. You'd have to ask
like
some of the producer end of stuff. Because when we would get it, like in World Race, we got just the scripts. You know what I mean? Like the 5. So we knew where the whole story was going to go. And then, and it was quite a surprise when AcceleRacers, we got, a little bit later, got the stuff for AcceleRacers. We're just like, where's Hot Wheels City? Like,
that's right.
What happened?
Where did it go?
Where did Hot Wheels City go? We were there, man. We were ready. So
that's great.
I think that might have been, like in the fabled episodes that never were in AcceleRacers. I think that would have been explained. I would have hoped that would have been explained.
Okay.
Between what happened between Tesla and the silencers and Hot Wheels City to make them break apart or however.
Yeah. So, did you have any influence over the story overall, or was it like you just said, with just directing, getting it done?
More in the directorial side of things, like in terms of, and very little in World Race, to be honest. Like I guess in World Race, the one we were talking about with the TREX statue.
TREX, yeah.
In the script, it was a TREX.
Oh, it was an actual T-Rex. Oh my gosh!
It was a T-Rex.
Let's go!
And it was moving around, and it was attacking the cars, and they were. I mean, it would have been epic, but it was like too far beyond what we could accomplish.
Yeah. At
that time, so I came up with, you know what I mean, that oftentimes the director has to come up with a solution that meets the production needs and meets the creative needs.
Right.
And that was the solution, was that what if it's a statue?
Really cool statue.
Think it's a real dinosaur, but then it isn't a real dinosaur.
So that's why they stop and look, and they're just like, what is this? And then they go, hey! It's like, bro, why are you stopping in the middle of the road? So then we
convinced them that we would make, so we did that kind of, there's a bunch of chicanery going on the way up.
Right.
You know what I mean? To make it kind of thing. And then we made a cool kind of like inside that was darker, that they have to flick their lights on. Do you know what I mean? So it was like you tried to come up with a bunch of little, you know what I mean? Hey, we want to get rid of this whole Jurassic Park sequence you have in here. And replace it with a statue. You know what I mean? How do we make the statue interesting?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it worked out in the end, though, because I think if you had tried to do the giant T-Rex, it could have even come off a little bit too goofy, almost, where it was like...
We wouldn't have had the ability to do it, right? Like, a lot of times on these shows, you have to, and as a director, what you're trying to do is, you are trying to get the best possible stuff on screen. Do you know what I mean? So I want everyone to see the most exciting, and I don't want to put something on that's gonna not look so great. So every now and then you'll have a thing where they're asking for something, and you're just like, it's not going to look great.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like the water, going through the water, it's not going to look great. Do you know what I mean? And the more you ask for it, the more we have to put it in, the less the quality of the episode is going to be, because we're putting more of a thing in we can't do well. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's figuring out what you and your team can do really well and doubling down on that. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And yeah. We wouldn't have been able to do a T-Rex animation of any, do you know what I mean? It just wouldn't have been.
Yeah. I don't think so. I mean, you still, I mean, if you look at Beast Wars, you can see kind of where it was. I mean, it's very, what do you call it? I mean, it's very prehistoric in terms of animation.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're not ILM in this moment. Like, you are Mainframe Studio.
Yeah. And it's a 20-minute thing that's getting attached to a car, you know, like to a toy that's getting put in a shelf, right? You're sitting there thinking, like, we can't put that level of, you know, budget into it.
Right.
But I think what they liked about it originally was that approach that we offered them from Mainframe, in the sense we never really said no. You know what I mean? You tried not to say no. You tried to say, how about this? Maybe not that. How about this? Do you know what I mean? You always had to have a solution. You couldn't just say no on something. You had to supply something. So that was mostly how we had story control. Was in terms of like how to control the budget. Yeah.
No, that's good. That's good to learn, and it's cool to hear that you actually had that influence on statue. That's really cool actually to learn. So I bet people are gonna love that. All right.
Okay.
So there are some really cool dynamic shots that we love from World Race that really makes the cars feel like they're flying, whizzing past each other and more. One of these being in the opening shot of Greatest Challenge. The cars are drifting around the first corner. They go, watch that first corner, amigos, unless you got wings. And they're like just about to fall right off of them. And it's really cool. And then they have the twisting we talked about. And they just, you know, boom.
That was a fun track to come up with. That was the one thing, too, is like trying to figure out what to do with the tracks, right? Like, because you did have... Yeah. You could have a track that you could wind around things and do all sorts of stuff with it. But it was like, at what point, if it's just one track, do you have, because you fall under the fallacy at some points in the show where it's like, I'm going to pass you, gear shift, hit the gas, and I go faster somehow? Like, we're already in fifth gear, right? Like, you know what I mean? So there's a bit of a kind of, you have to let what do you call it? Suspension of disbelief. You got to let a little bit of that go and now I'm going faster kind of thing. Yeah. So a lot of it too was like, what can we do with the tracks? And, you know, we would look at like previous track designs from their toys and everything. And just kind of like, hey, why don't we use this one into this world? And it has these, you know, the break aparts and the spirals that come back together and crisscross back in.
Yeah.
And then trying to figure out how to shoot that. Do you know what I mean? Like trying to figure out like...
Yeah, all the double shots and like all the like ways that y'all do the framing and it like comes in and out. Those are so cool. I love that kind of framing.
Oh, awesome.
Personally.
That was one of the things. That was me on that one for sure. Because it was like I was trying to figure out how to make that big loopy track more interesting. So I was
that's cool.
And we had so many shots that were kind of possible to do. But it wasn't like... You couldn't... If you cut to them too short, you know what I mean? There was these cool shots of the driver driving and you can see the world spinning around behind them and the tracks shifting and everything like that. And it was like, but if you cut it short, it didn't have any impact. So all of a sudden it was like, what if we put two cameras that are very similar to that, let them be double time? Do you know what I mean? We got
it was
lots to look at now. You're getting a kaleidoscopy kind of feel.
Oh,
So yeah, no, I'm glad to hear
okay.
you like that. Yeah, that was
Genius
a good one.
idea, because I love that, and especially in what desert heat, especially they use it again with the going around the big thing. I forgot
Yeah,
about that. Yeah,
yeah,
that's a
that's the
personal
one.
love.
That was the one because we kind of got stuck on that one where we were trying to make. We're like, how are we gonna make this? We had when we had designed it, we had designed the scale, and then we didn't consider how big it was once we got into it. And then once we were into it, the difference between the tracks are going around like that. There's two tracks going around like
Right. Yeah.
that. You know what I mean, kind of thing. And so we wanted these shots where you're like seeing one guy driving, and then you're panning down and seeing the other car on the other track.
Right.
The tracks were really far apart. So you couldn't get like a nice shot. You'd have a lot of empty space,
yeah.
a lot of empty space, a lot of empty space, and then the other guy. So that's why another reason why the multiple windows came in. So it just made it possible to get kind of the idea of two cars racing on the tracks, opposite directions.
No, I love it. I love that
speed. Screen time, yeah.
No, those are sweet. I know some people prefer the really AcceleRacers, like very, what do you call it, more grounded. But I was always like, give me the crazy fantasy cuts. Like, feels like Speed Racer all of a sudden. We're just going boom, 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 boom all around. And really, I love that. But before we get into more content, let's thank today's sponsor. Lap 24 Coffee powers the Squared Corner podcast. Lap 24 Coffee is a premier coffee blend for the car enthusiast that jumpstarts their day. Their best coffee blend is this, the Daily Driver. It offers a well-balanced dark chocolate flavor with beans coming from Costa Rica and Brazil, which comes in both ground and whole. Or you can try my personal favorite, the cold brew, with flavors like Drifter de Leche and Velocity Vanilla. Seriously, this stuff is good. Viewers of the show can use JayCee with 2 E's at checkout for 10% off. That's JayCee at lap24coffee.com. And as a bonus, you can receive a jcsquared trading card. That's right. If it wasn't good enough for 10% off, you also get a jcsquared trading card. So for any of your Lap 24 offerings, beans or cold brew, go to lap24coffee.com and use code JC with 2 E's. Lap 24 Coffee, the premium choice for car enthusiasts. Thanks for sponsoring the Squared Corner podcast.
Well, we had a bunch of that sort of reference stuff that we were kind of thinking speed racery, and I think was Fast and the Furious already out by then.
I was wondering about that. I didn't know if it was.
I don't remember. I think I believe it was. It was probably out before AcceleRacers for sure.
Okay, 2001. Yeah.
So it was already out. Yeah, and I think that it was the catalyst for doing these things. Do you know what I mean? And I think World Race had a different World Race. Like Rob Hudnut was the Mattel executive who was kind of in charge of World Race in a way, and then his assistant was Ian Richter. And then Ian Richter got to be in charge of AcceleRacers. So that's the tone difference I think you see. You have a man that's in his 50s. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Kind of in charge of World Race. And then you have a young man who's 26, maybe 27 at the time.
Oh, wow.
In charge of AcceleRacers. And that's where that tone shift is, for sure.
Okay.
From the even from the executive Mattel level.
Right.
You know what I mean? You had these two vastly different perspectives. Yeah.
Yeah, because you had cell shading, which I love. I love the cell shading personally. You had, what else did I have on here? Just in general. I mean, the models and stuff are very different from AcceleRacers. They're very, skinny. Things kind of look like what they are. Very simplified, but also like very copycat. Some of the characters kind of look like one another a little bit,
And they
every now and then.
Let me tell you. Like if there's a character in the background with a helmet on, there's no head in there.
Hey, that's just smart though.
Angie's body with a head. There's no head on it.
Well, how many times have we seen 2 side drafts? I know that happened a bunch. Side draft replaces slingshot multiple times in shots sometimes, and everyone loves to point it out. I think in the ice one, and you just see Kurt Wilde and Dan Dresden falls over, and then Dan Dresden somehow racing again with him, and he's like, "What happened?"
There's so many. I don't know if you've noticed it. It's in World Race, but it's like it's Vert. Vert just get. I think it's the bridge. He's coming across the bridge, and the bridge is crumbling behind him.
Okay,
and
yeah.
he gets it, and he comes up, and
Yes.
then there's a shot where he looks over the bridge. If you look at that shot, his hair is sticking out of his helmet.
I've not seen that actually.
Like huge.
That's great.
And I remember one time we had a screening for the crew, and we had it in the theater at Mainframe. I say theater. It wasn't a theater. It was a room. They had a projection in it. We all sat on the floor. Do you know what I mean? Kind of thing. But they were starting to make IMAX things, so they had a big projector for that. So they had just a normal projector, and we projected. Projected the Hot Wheels movies. And that scene came on this massive screen. And we all just were like, ah! Because none of us had seen it when we were looking at, on a regular television size thing. But
that's great.
Screen, I'll send you a screen grab of it.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, I saw it again when I was watching the movies again before this.
So what kind of resolution then did y'all work with in exporting? Because I know now we've had to kind of try and, AI upscale stuff, and it doesn't always look as good, unfortunately, because of all the screen tearing and kind of messy. Since you'd said that, how big were y'all, exporting these movies into? And then
I think we would have been 720 by 540.
Okay.
I think probably would have been something. It was PAL. What we did, Mainframe did a lot of his stuff in PAL, and the reason PAL being, NTSC is the North American standard, and PAL being the Europe standard.
Okay.
In terms of frame rate, so NTSC is 30 frames a second, and PAL is 25 frames a second, and it's because of our current, our electrical currency, right? Our current.
Okay.
We're 60 hertz, and they're 50.
Oh.
So that. A lot of that early stuff is all hooked to the electrical signal. That's why we do 30 frames. That's why, because North America, their electricity runs at 30. So that's why.
Oh,
wow.
Didn't know that actually. So that's neat.
As I was saying it, I was like, oh, wow, I forgot about all this. But yeah, so in Mainframe, we used the PAL standard often because they had come from UK and I think had a whole bunch of PAL decks. So I think that was why we did PAL. And also it was only one frame off of 24, animating it on 24 frames a second. So that's what we did everything. And they had a slightly higher resolution. I think NTSC at the time was 640 by 480. And PAL was 720 by 540. So it was a slightly higher resolution than what TV broadcast was doing at the time. So that's probably what World Race and AcceleRacers is that.
Okay, that's interesting, because I was always wondering, is there always a shot that it could be remastered or something? I don't know, like drag an old file out, because I know DVDs can only do so much. They only hold so much data and stuff. So, especially at the time, I mean, that was some early DVD.
Well, I wonder if they have the master. They must still have the masters, and I imagine they would have a D1 master of it somewhere. Do you know what I mean? Okay. D1 tapes were like, I think 1 inch magnetic tapes that were digital. Still a digital tape, but still, and I think they were 1-to-1, so it would be as good as it could get.
Right.
I know the people that just did the Reboot documentary, they had a hard time finding all the master tapes and everything, but they ultimately got all the master tapes for all the Reboot episodes, plus all the different versionings of it. So I imagine AcceleRacers is probably sitting in that same area.
Oh. Interesting.
I can look into it. I'm working at Mainframe again now, so.
Hey, could you look into that?
Yeah, I'll look into it.
That would be awesome, actually, if we could find that out. You can't really
trust me to look into things very well, but I will look into it.
Okay. And just, put it out there. We're just curious. I would love to see it, especially if we could, hey, maybe release the movies on like something like Netflix so we could watch them again.
Yeah, I wonder why they don't. I wonder what it is with old libraries of animated stuff. Like, I wonder where it sits. Do you know what I mean? Like, where it sits in the...
It's got... So I remember talking to Ted just briefly about a little bit of it, because I know some people are extremely upset they got taken off of YouTube, but it's also like, who owns the rights? I think Mattel owns all the rights towards them.
I would imagine.
As far as I know. But even when talking to Ted, and he works at Mattel, he was saying he didn't know precisely where the rights landed exactly with distribution, especially. So I don't know if it's Warner Brothers distribution or something like that. I don't know. A lot of crazy other legal stuff. I
It's
don't
one of those things that you
understand.
find too as you get into it. Yeah, there's so many other people that handle different parts of everything like that, and then everybody has this little piece. And then sometimes when they're, it's like certain TV shows trying to figure out stuff, they can't release them because of the music, and it's just like, yeah.
Oh, I mean, I feel bad for Battle Force 5 fans that had the movie and they can't get it in English.
Oh, really?
It is still not released in English. It's the finale of the entire Battle Force 5 series, and it is only in, I believe, Portuguese and Spanish. So it was only ever done, but they've had it. They made it in English, and then they dubbed it, and only the dubs are available legally. So it's like,
that's crazy.
Or even, I don't even think illegally. You can't find the English version. So it's very strange all around. I don't quite understand distribution at all, but here's the hope.
I worked on Battle Force 5 too. I don't know if you knew that too as well, but I also worked on Battle Force 5.
Yeah, so
I've worked on so many Hot Wheels shows. For a guy that doesn't drive, it's amazing.
Oh no. Oh, you don't drive? You don't drive at all?
I don't drive at all. I've never
What? That's crazy. That's cool. No, because it's funny, because it's like, okay. I mean, because I didn't watch Battle Force 5. Personally, I know people like it. There are, crossover of fans, of course, because it sort of tells Vert again, but then again, it doesn't. And I remember hearing all about why it doesn't, and it's just crazy corporate stuff again. But
well, I think too, it's the insult of leaving AcceleRacers hanging. Do you know what I mean? Like, that was the thing for me. I was like surprised that they were doing just a brand new thing again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it was just...
Yeah, and I was talking to people at Mattel, and they wanted, or I should say Hot Wheels. The people at Hot Wheels wanted to continue that story, and then ended up, the people at Cartoon Network did not. And so, whatever happened there split the image, but somehow Vert's name still made it all the way through into the new film, or the new series.
Yeah.
And it messed everybody up because, me as a kid, I'm 8 years old. I'm thinking, finally, I'm getting a conclusion to this thing. And then it was totally different, had nothing to do with it. And I was like, this is the worst day of my life.
Yeah, I would imagine it would be very disappointing. Yeah. I didn't work on it till the second season or something like that, but yeah.
That's why I've heard it's better in the second season. As just a side note, I've only heard that.
I've just heard it. Yeah.
I have absolutely no idea. I've never watched it all the way through yet. So I've only heard that the second season is where everyone tells me it gets good. And I'm like, that's interesting. Cool to hear.
Well, it's funny. I only hear of AcceleRacers fan. I've never heard from Battle Force 5 fans. Really? But I had heard from AcceleRacers fans. There's a few other people have reached out over time.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I mean? Yeah. But AcceleRacers is the one show I've made, or that I worked on, that over the longest length of time has always had people always interested in it.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting, because I know I did just a quick Google trend search, and I know we're so off topic on World Race. I'm going to get back to it in a second, but I did a quick Google trend search, and at the very beginning, AcceleRacers was hugely popular, and at the beginning, Battle Force 5 was not of its production, but then whenever looking at it, it actually surpassed AcceleRacers later on, which I thought was interesting, and a part of it is they continued it for a second year, and so people then watched it and then wanted to watch it again, and it was so weird that they just cut all of the previous stuff. They didn't even give a chance. It didn't even get a chance to grow.
Well, the end of Battle Force 5 too, we specifically tried to, because of AcceleRacers, because of my experience on AcceleRacers, I was like, I'm not going to work on another thing that you leave everybody hanging. So we made sure to make Battle Force 5 had at least the feeling like it could continue and do more stuff, but at least it felt like a story was told.
Oh, that's good.
So that it had some conclusion, and maybe that's why people are still connect with it in a way, is that it didn't leave them hanging like AcceleRacers did.
Yeah, I know. We're just like holding on by a thread, like You think they'll bring it back? You think they'll bring
just
it back?
watching it again, I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe we never finished this. What a horrible thing to do to children.
I still can't. I was like, whenever I heard some of the behind the scenes, and I don't know too much, but it's just like, what's going on? Like, this is easy decision making. You have a good fan base. You have people that want to watch. You have kids that are very invested, very interested.
They had a
But
studio
I guess
that would have done it. They had a whole bunch of people. We would have jumped on it, right? Like we would have done it again. Like we were into it. You know what I mean? Monkey would have been there. I would have loved.
Oh, that's for sure, right? Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I will mention this. Talking to Brian Benedict, he is I believe, the lead creative behind Hot Wheels and Matchbox. He's like their design head. He says that you are his favorite as far as all the characters. He loves Monkey the best, which I thought was great.
That's awesome.
So I had to give you a shout out there and to him as well for liking Monkey. Because I know some people were like, Monkey's this crazy comedic relief and nobody likes it. What's he doing in this show?
That's what we were worried about too, is that he might be a little much.
Yeah. Okay, back to World Race. That's all teaser.
Sure,
You know how much... Okay, so like I was saying with the style and everything with World Race, my goodness, I know we talked about some of the technology. What was some of the technology towards just the animation in general, like character animation and car animation? I know one of the big things is whenever Slingshot, I don't know if you remember the shot or not, he's coming off of the pyramid and Kerwile just does the giant wheelie after, hitting Nitrox 2, braking as hard as he can, and then just releasing, and it just goes boom. And it's really incredible, feeling, and he's boom. Very good, very good. What was that kind of, like, though, for an animator to go in there and being like, okay, how are we doing this? Because it's just so sudden. It's very punchy and everything like that. What does that technology look like? Because I know we talked about the tracks. Was it like when they get off track?
Yeah, when they're off track, it complicated everything. Do you know what I mean? Like, so each of the animators had so much more to keep track of. Do you know what I mean? Like the vehicle, when it was on the track rig, the vehicle would just follow the thing. All you had to do was move it left and right, add some shimmy on the suspension and stuff like that. So when it was off of when he's up on top of the pyramid, I think it was one of those things we were trying to figure out how to get him. He had to catch up with Kadeem, and we had made the set so big that he had to be close enough to be a threat to Kadeem. Do you know what I mean? But he couldn't start so far away that he lessened Kadeem's abilities. Do you know what I mean? Like if he had a caught all the way up to Kadeem, then Kadeem is not as good a driver as we were convinced. So it had to be some sort of way to get him. Kadeem has a huge head start, and he lands right next to him, and now they're back where they were basically.
Mm.
And that was what it was. Somebody said, "What about a brake stand? Like what about like a?" Do you know what I mean? Like a Nitrox 3 brake stand or Nitrox 2 brake stand where it's like, and we were, why couldn't he do that?
That's right. It's a Hot Wheel. Why not?
Let's see what happens.
It wheelies. It does this. Boom. That's how it works.
Yeah, they had already had that set up, and that was I think that was again a mandate from from Mattel.
To do the wheelie stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Well, that was a good one, honestly. That's a good one. Good mandate as far as speed goes, and fun. I would say fun more than speed, because obviously it doesn't make much sense. I mean, we see it in Fast and Furious, where he does that wheelie, and everyone goes, "That's not possible. Like, what is he doing?"
And how does it, like, that's what we were always worried about, too, is, like, isn't it causing more wind resistance, like, popping out? Like, isn't that causing more drag now? But then that's, I think, why it's glowing.
Right.
Because the glow is, like, counterbalancing that in a way. Yeah, there was a bunch of, we would have all the discussions that you see online about stuff like that. All of those discussions happened in the studio. Do you know what I mean?
So
like,
fun, yeah.
Between all the people that were there, like animators coming up. How am I supposed to do this? Like, why would it do this? It wouldn't do that. It would do this. It would do, you know what I mean? You'd be like, I don't know. We'll make it do that then.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the cool scenes I was just remembering was Kadeem landing after his jump from the T-Rex, and it's like bouncing all over the place, and you can kind of see the suspension rig give itself away, and you can see like, oh, there's nothing attached there. It's just like the wheels are attached to like a little pin, but it's like,
and his
oh, that
vehicle
was
so hard because it was that he had that.
yeah, crazy like V12.
Yeah, there wasn't like
or
the wheels were
I-12.
embedded in the body, right? The wheels, you know, up, and then everything was low, and he had like a clearance of about that much between his wheel and everything. We were like, this is the worst car for driving in the desert, you know what I'm saying? But it's also, I guess, like, you know, like when they're originally, here's all the cars we've designed. Do you know what I mean? Divide them up into groups. Do you know what I mean? I was like, they all get divided up that way somehow. But
yeah, no, that's sweet. That's awesome. And then I guess, what is one favorite moment in World Race for you? What was one of your favorites to direct?
I think it would have been either it's either the TREX thing. Do you know what I mean? Because of changing something that was too tough. But I think it's also that multi-screen loop thing at the end. When watching that again, I was just like, I remembered all of the effort and the kind of like conversations that we had about it and everything. So I think it'd probably be something around that.
Sweet. That's sweet. So what was the development cycle like? We're gonna finish off hopefully into World Race. Wow, there was more questions than I thought. What was the development cycle like? Who did y'all have to work with, and did Mattel work directly in it? I think we've already answered this though, as far as I'm.
Maybe a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I think we kind of already answered that one.
Yeah, I would say, like, again, I think it's mostly we got the scripts. They had their initial idea about what they wanted to do, the path along for the five stories. And then I think it really was Will Lau, who was in charge of the first one, who kind of like set the tone in terms of like what the show looked like, and did all of that, not in terms of what it looked like, but all of that work, that early work you have to do with a client. Do you know what I mean? Where you're that dance between back and forth. Is this what you're looking for? Is this what you're looking for? Will and them had already kind of like
figured that
worked all that out. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then I had there, how long did it take to produce? We talked about that. I think you said like 8 weeks, right? Or something like that per episode.
8 weeks per 20. I think it's something like that. Yeah. So if you're looking at the 5 of them, even if you said 10 weeks per 20, so you're looking at 50 weeks maybe. 50 weeks. It's funny.
For 2 hours though. Was it 2 hours, right? Yeah.
It's an hour and 40, I guess it'd be. It's 100 minutes. Probably 100 minutes, I guess. Yeah. But when you think of it, so that's why I think. Do you know what I mean? That's when Will was going to start it, I think. Yeah. And that's why they said, okay, we want it in 20 weeks.
Yeah.
Or 25
because it had to make the 2003 deadline. And that's pretty fast.
Yeah. And it's funny because it's not a lot of time, that 8 weeks to do a 20-minute episode with 8-10 animators or whatever it is. Like, it's still a tough thing. They have a quota of like 25 seconds a week, probably. Do you know what I mean? Like that they have to hit. So you know what I mean? Every week. I gotcha. So 5 seconds a day, basically. Yeah.
That's tough. Yeah. That's incredible.
If you're animators, any animators out there who know, hitting a constant 5 seconds a day, do you know what I mean? Can be a bit of a grind.
Yeah. Thank you, animators.
But a lot of times
Thank you.
They do 3, you know what I mean? They do 3 days worth of work in the one.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. That's awesome, though. Did you have any cut sequences that you would have liked to see make it in? And this is to World Race specifically.
Yeah, I was going to say, to World Race, not so much, I would say. But yeah, I probably have an answer for AcceleRacers.
Okay, cool. All right, we're going to get that AcceleRacers answer later then. Okay, and you might not know this, how did y'all get Smash Mouth to do the song for the movie release? I'm guessing this is more producer side.
I think Mattel had got Smash Mouth to do like that song for their I think just Hot Wheels in general.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That Go song. And then I think we might have been the first use of it.
Okay.
Using it at the end of credits on the
the hot.
Yeah. I think they had commissioned them to do that song, I think. So it was a Smash Mouth song for Mattel, I think.
Yeah.
But
they don't use it anymore. What's up with that?
I don't know. Yeah. We might have been the first ones to use it, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and rest in peace to Steve. Love him. And it's really cool. We love that song. And hopefully Mattel will just, maybe bring it back. I kind of want it to come back. It was a really good song.
Yeah. It was good for Hot Wheels, yeah.
Yeah, and then I guess what was Mattel's reaction to the episode/movie? Did they consider them a success at the time?
I think they did. I think they did, and I think there was because it was a new idea, and I think this whole idea of putting these DVDs inside the boxes, like the kids could buy a car with a DVD attached to it. I think they liked that idea, but then they kind of realized, I think they realized that they could market it as its own thing. Do you know what I mean? Like now they were like, here's a toy and you get this free movie in there. And then all of a sudden they realized, wait, the movie could maybe be its own thing. Like maybe we could sell these. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How capitalism works. Yeah. So I think that's how it kind of went. I think it was a big enough success to get them to do AcceleRacers for sure.
Yeah. That is a good point. Yeah, they probably wouldn't have greenlit a sequel if they didn't think the World Race at least did good. And now you see DVD stuff is no longer needed now with Netflix and everything. Now just watch the show on Netflix, and I'm like, it's kind of, I don't know. Yeah. There was something unique about a DVD. It felt like he really owned it. It felt like, kids these days, whatever. They'll get it one day, maybe.
Physical objects are going away.
That's right.
In many things, yeah.
Recipes. Were you able to collect any of those diecasts from Highway 35, or did they give you any for
they did give us
marketing or something like that?
We did have some. I think I had Monkey's car for the longest time. I'm just looking around because I'm sitting at my son's desk, and sometimes they have some of these things. But yeah, I had Monkey's car, and I think I have one sec.
Sure. Why not? It's all good.
No, sorry. Well, I have. They gave me one, and it was. I think it's TREX. It's TREX car.
Oh, okay. I think that's Hollowback.
It was a pretty high quality kind of sculpt, and it was in one of those little, boxes with.
That might be the Toy Fair one then. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. It was like
Toy Fair.
So I have that, but I think my son now has it. A lot of my Hot Wheels stuff. My one son is into cars, so he's takes the Hot Wheels kind of stuff. My other son's into monkeys, which I'm in his room.
Oh, that's fun. So did you have them watch the show and be like, all right, do you want to watch this? It's got monkeys and cars.
It's got monkeys and cars. You guys are gonna love it. Yeah. They haven't watched it yet. I'm thinking now. Well, I could never get a version that I wanted to show them because they were always so online. They just the quality of them, and I was just like,
yeah,
like
kind of low.
Something on VHS or something.
Yeah, it's hard now, especially with.
But now I got
them going up in
price ones from you. So that.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, well, you're welcome. Hopefully that helps out.
Yeah, it'll be great. Now I can put a demo reel together.
Show off your work, and they're gonna be like, "Oh wait, you did this? How old is this? 2000. Yeah, it's just 2003 or 4. It's fine. We're good. We're chilling." That's great. So let me see. Did we miss anything that you would personally want to shout out or touch on before I try to move on into the next segment? I believe I have, just a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No?
Yeah, I think
we covered it all? Sweet.
Yeah.
That's cool. Because I know I miss things. And then people go, why didn't you ask him that? And I'm like, what do you want me to do? I'm not omniscient. I'm sorry. I just tried to do my best. And we got a lot. That was an hour of just World Race. I say just World Race, but we had a little bit of sprinkling of other things. And
we tangenting off in many ways sometimes. But I think that's how a good conversation goes. I think.
Yeah.
So that was good.
Now, did y'all ever? And now segueing into AcceleRacers, and I've heard from Jeff Gomez on this because he obviously worked on just the World Race stuff, and then he had a plan for a sequel to World Race, and then ended up nothing happened there. Did y'all ever get that plan? And supposedly stuff was going to happen in Hot Wheels City. How far in development maybe was that his sequel idea versus what Ian was probably going to redo with AcceleRacers a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been when I found out that they were going to come back and do a sequel to World Race, what we thought. And then they offered me to work on it. So I was going to direct. Originally, I was just going to direct the first episode. I think I was going to direct the first and last episode. There's going to be 2 other directors. Will Lau was going to be one of them. And then as we started talking about it, first I'll say this though, like, so when we first got the scripts and the concepts and everything, it was vastly different almost right away from our perspective. We were looking for we had seen an outline, I think, for Jeff's about like what they were going to do, and that's what we were told. And then we got this thing, like, hey, look, there's been a radical rethinking, and there's this new direction. So Mattel came in basically with the story kind of changes, the art direction, like characters like Torque was already designed.
Oh wow.
The new way Vert was designed, and I think Taro was done. Lanny was also done.
Oh, Lonnie, yeah.
Yeah, so they came in with this kind of like, here's the look of the characters and everything that we want to do. Here's this new style and the story. And then we had to pitch them the look that we were going to do. So we pitched back, and this is where I made a fatal mistake.
Oh no.
And this is where I made a fatal mistake that has haunted me, you know what I mean, in the sense of I don't make it anymore. Let's just say that.
I gotcha.
But I did that. I supplied them 3 options with directions of looks from our art directors. And there was this one, which is the look that AcceleRacers becomes. Do you know what I mean? That I waffled on even sending it. Do you know what I mean? Like, what I was told by the company, by the studio, they wanted to make it needs to look like World Race. It needs to be toon shaded. It needs to be stuff. So one of our looks was toon shaded, but the mandate we got from Mattel was that we don't want toon shaded. We don't want any toon shaded. So you have the studio pushing one thing, Mattel pushing the other thing. And whether it was Mattel or whether it was Ian, I'm not exactly sure, but he was Mattel to me at that point, right?
Yeah.
So he's pushing. So we did one that was like toon shaded, very similar to World Race. One that was slightly less, which would have been the ideal version of doing it. And then one that was kind of detailed. And I, to this day, do not understand why I included that 3rd option. We had to give them 3 options. They wanted 3 options. And it was either send the guys back to do, and we had these other options, and then it was just like, we need something that looks different. Send them that one as well. And then, of course, they picked that one, which was way more expensive than what we were intending to do.
Oh,
so that's why that look gets that different. And that's why the tone is that different, is that they came in with that right off the bat, that new darker stories like Marky going to prison, and you know what I mean, that kind of thing. I think all of that is influenced by Fast and Furious. Do you know what I mean? I think those were happening at the time. Maybe the second one had even come out by the time we were doing AcceleRacers. So I think those things were influencing. Yeah, probably Tokyo Drift was probably out by then. So I think that's where that darker tone, and I think Ian, being a younger executive, wanted to make something, for him more. Do you know what I mean, kind of thing?
Yeah.
I think older executives a lot of times are making something for the kids. Do you know what I mean? And I think sometimes when you're in that young executive stage, you're just off of being a kid in your mind to a certain extent. So you want to make something that's, grittier and darker and more realistic and that kind of stuff. And
all right.
So I think that's where it is. I think Ian was the catalyst for the darker tone of AcceleRacers.
Interesting. Well, I like that we started off that teaser for the next episode, because we've already run out of time, I think, for this one, and that's gonna be good for next time. I'm gonna give you, let's see, I think we're gonna wrapping up this episode 29. So we're gonna talk about your work as Monkey more, because we talked a little bit today, and then we're gonna talk about more of Ignition, so specifically Ignition, and maybe even some of that pre-production stuff, and like what you were just talking about, which is so interesting to me.
I can react it too if you want me to.
Yeah. No, I mean we'll go into it again. So let's go on into where can people find your work and or / follow you if they want to, just see what you're up to.
Yeah, I guess I have a portfolio. I guess it's Andrew Monkey Duncan at .com.
Yeah.
So that has a list of all of the things I've done. I don't think it's. I had done it. I created it on this Wix website that now is defunct.
Oh no.
And it's been bought out by another thing, so I haven't
Right.
been able to update it since
Oh
then.
no.
So that's why Sonic Prime is the last thing on it, I think. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. And then you can find me everywhere under the sun, on pretty much every social media imaginable: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Just search JAYCEE squared. YouTube as well, JAYCEE squared. That's JC squared. And you'll be able to find me pretty much everywhere. I want to also thank the members who make this possible and pay a monthly thing. And so Aiden Winsky, Slingshot Kurt 847, AcceleRacers, Ratchet RPG 01, and Asher Logbeck. Thank you guys so much for making this kind of stuff possible. And as of July 6th, as of editing this video, I also want to thank the members right now: Warlock Account, Aiden Winsky, Low GFM 7726, GLTS 8146, The White Backing 616, Acceler 23, ZZ, Nino Glace, Bliss, Full R6, LUKE, SCF Official 3178, Alseg, Sounded Waves, Atrieth 5506, Crazy Gamer 74256, Clown of Everywhere, John T, Ratchet RPG 01, and Citrus 3. Thank you guys for the post edit. There you go. And oh, there you go. Wow, we got fireworks. What?
I don't even know double thumbs up gets you fireworks.
I have no idea. Is this? How does yours work? I don't know.
I think it's an Apple thing. Yeah.
Oh, it's an Apple thing. Oh, that's great. That's so much fun. Oh my goodness. So that's perfect then. Happy New Year. For this and AcceleRacers 20th anniversary. We're gonna see you guys in the next episode, and we will continue on from there into the second entry on this celebrating 20th anniversary of AcceleRacers and more. So please rate the podcast, as it helps boost numbers, and show what you think of the show in general. All right, we're going to see you in the next one. Peace out. Thank you so much. This has been the Squared Corner Podcast. Music composed by Steve Rockette. Video and audio recording by Riverside.fm. Video and audio editing by JC Squared. Logo art by Allison Segovia. And lastly, supported by you, the viewer. Thank you.